I'm Talia Ricci. Tonight, residents and health experts frustrated over Ontario's new testing guidance.
Definitely, I could speak on behalf of myself and my colleagues as health workers. We feel abandoned by the government at this time.
With the metrics changing, we look at how public health units will be tracking COVID-19 data moving forward. Plus,
so we've seen like more than a 50% reduction in traffic.
Another New Year's Eve with restrictions. We have reaction from bars and restaurants tonight on what this means for business. And the Raptors and Leafs will be playing for an empty arena for the next 3 weeks. What fans have to say about capacity restrictions and canceled tickets once again. Good evening to those joining us across the province tonight. Ontario broke yet another record of new COVID-19 cases today, surging past the 16,000 mark. The province registering more than 16,700 new infections today, while the test positivity rate climbed to just under 30%. Meanwhile, the number of patients in hospital jumped to 1,144. 205 people are in ICU. That number was 164 this time last week. And sadly, 15 more COVID deaths are also being reported. Now, COVID-19 data like this might soon be hard to come by. With new testing guidelines in effect, the way the province is tracking the virus is changing. Chris Ensing explains.
A sea of people waiting for rapid tests.
You're number one in line. What time did you get here?
10:30 last night.
This is my second time. My wife's lined up 3 times.
Long lines for an unreliable tool.
Rapid tests now with Omicron are only able to detect roughly 50% of the infectious cases out there. The other 50% just stay negative on a rapid test. And that's the problem. If you have a rapid test right now, it doesn't mean anything regarding that you're safe, to meet with other people.
Happy New Year.
But some can't go without.
They're not a PCR test, right? But some employers, they require it, right? So I'm just doing what I'm required.
I think the people of Ontario, and definitely I could speak on behalf of myself and my colleagues as health workers, we feel abandoned by the government at this time. That's really the right word. We feel abandoned.
Dr. Ahmed Arya says investments should have been made so everyone could get a PCR test. And the new rules, he says, overlook essential workers, saying paid sick days should be increased and PCR tests made available.
I mean, these are the people who essentially are, keep our economy going. These are people who, for example, work in food service. They might be making our food or putting it on the grocery shelves or delivering it outside our doors.
Meanwhile, hundreds of staff at this Hamilton hospital are isolating.
Many staff have exposures and are off with COVID themselves. And, even this slight increase has put the hospital into a crisis mode in a lot of places.
Prioritizing PCR test access for healthcare workers could help the situation.
There's just simply not enough PCR tests to go around. And I do think that, that leads to a need to triage and use the PCR tests in situations where they can make a difference, in healthcare workers so that they can go back to work, and given the shortages that we're experiencing.
Back in line, another shortage.
You got the last one for today.
Ministry of Health is completely out of kits right now.
Not nearly enough to meet the needs on the final day of a long year. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
The Ministry of Education announcing today it's keeping childcare programs open starting Monday. This comes after the province said yesterday it would be pushing back the start of school by 2 days to allow a buffer for schools to adjust to new protocols. But some say the delay isn't long enough.
I'm a parent of 3 kids. I want my kids in school. I understand the importance. I think school is vital for children. At the same time, delaying the start of school by 48 hours, in my view, achieves very little. We need to wait 1 to 2 weeks, not 1 to 2 months like we did in Wave 3, 1 to 2 weeks where we can achieve some very important goals now that we're in the vaccine era.
Among his recommendations, Warner says the ministry should prioritize vaccinations for kids age 5 to 11, as well as boosters for teachers. He also says schools need better access to rapid tests. For its part, the ministry is introducing several short-term measures at schools, including virtual-only assemblies and only allowing safe after-school activities. The ministry also says it's deploying an additional 5,000 HEPA filters to schools across the province to improve ventilation. And Toronto is reaching a milestone in booster vaccinations. More than 750,000 people now have their third dose. The city also reporting 43% of eligible kids have their first dose. The NHL has announced it's canceling another 8 games between January 3rd and 16th due to pandemic restrictions. Meanwhile, in the basketball world, the Toronto Raptors are going to play at Scotiabank Arena with no fans in the stands for the first time in the regular season. This comes on the heels of the latest COVID-19 restrictions imposed by the province. Greg Ross has reaction.
This was a premium game.
Merch Jaffer has been waiting months to see the Raptors host the LA Clippers on New Year's Eve. He bought the tickets in hopes of seeing some of his favorite former Raptors return, like Serge Ibaka and maybe Kawhi Leonard, even though he hasn't played this season after having surgery on his knee.
Kawhi is a legend here, okay? Even if we see him sitting on the bench, I'm happy with it.
When capacity limits were reduced to 50% earlier this month, he was still hopeful he'd be able to go. But all hope was lost when capacity limits were further reduced to just 1,000 fans yesterday. Not long after that, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment made the decision to play games without fans for at least the next 3 weeks.
I do think that they made the right call, yes.
Jaffer says he understands, even if it means he'll have to wait until next season to get a chance to see the Clippers in Toronto. But some fans are still concerned about losing professional sports once again.
I am concerned about that. I think there's got to be a point where we're just turning the page, we're moving on, we're living, we're doing what we're being asked to do. We're double vaxxed, we're triple vaxxed now.
Raptors need their fans, bro. They need their fans. Just thrive on the fan support. No fans at all. I don't know. It's not looking too pretty.
Open it up, man. Let's just get back to where we need to get.
As for Jaffer's New Year's Eve plans, with basketball off the table, he's going to see a movie instead.
I was up all night watching the first 3 Matrix movies, and then I'm probably going to go and see number 4 while it's like fresh in my head.
The Raptors have another 5 home games in the next 3 weeks that they may be forced to play without fans in the stands. And this also impacts the Maple Leafs, who have 4 home games in the next 3 weeks. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
It will be a quiet New Year's Eve in Quebec. Another round of COVID restrictions take effect today, including an overnight curfew from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m.
We have to take care of each other, but I still want to wish all Quebecers health and happier news for 2022. Thank you.
Quebecers are being told to restrict themselves to a one-family household bubble. The curfew bans all private gatherings and forces restaurants to close their dining rooms. They can still provide takeout, but it's a tough break for restaurants. Many had stocked up on food and other perishable supplies in anticipation of New Year's festivities. Quebec reported nearly 16,500 new COVID-19 infections and 13 more deaths today. Back here in Ontario, the minimum wage is set to increase to $15 starting tomorrow. That's up from $14.35. Following this increase, Ontario says the minimum wage will then continue to rise by the rate of inflation. The pay bump also applies to workers who serve alcohol and receive tips. Their minimum wage will jump from $12.55 to $15. As we all prepare to ring in the new year, officials are insisting on limiting contact as much as possible tonight. Today, Ontario's Chief Medical Officer of Health spoke to CBC's Metro Morning about the personal responsibility of keeping each other safe.
All Ontarians continue to adhere to the best practices, and we all have to, if we want to avoid further closures, continue to get immunized, continue to adhere to all the best practices, limit our number of social contacts, and I hope everyone's going to have a safe and healthy New Year's celebration tonight, but we have an obligation to try to protect each other by limiting our total number of contacts.
Celebrations are set to be subdued as we ring in the new year. Restaurants and bars are subject to capacity limits and need to be closed by 11 p.m. Jessica Ng found out how establishments are trying to make the most of the occasion.
You guys are welcome to say whatever you like.
Andy Reid greets patrons at the entrance of Dundas and Carlaw. He says many have been asking if the bar plans to host its usual New Year's festivities, but provincial guidelines mean the restaurant will be closed well before the stroke of midnight.
It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it feels necessary. Once those restrictions were announced, COVID was kind of getting out of hand again already, so We've seen like more than a 50% reduction.
Well, this might be nice.
In an effort to curb the spread of the Omicron variant, the province is barring the sale of alcohol after 10 o'clock. Establishments need to close by 11 p.m. Raymond Connert is with the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario.
Compliance officials are out in the field and will be into the evening visiting bars and restaurants who choose to open to ensure that they're following the law.
But some are getting creative to keep the party going. The Well Bar on Church Street has live drag performances starting at 7 p.m. and an early celebration.
So Fonda and the girls will do their countdown around 9 p.m. And then upstairs we will have music and the Go-Go Boys doing the shower shows. So, no dancing, but they will be in their seats.
Though the city of Toronto isn't holding an in-person celebration like pre-pandemic, it will reprise its streamed fireworks display. Sometimes when it hurts. They'll also feature live and pre-recorded performances by Walk Off the Earth, Andy Kim, and cover band Dwayne Gretzky. But those in the industry of helping us celebrate occasions like New Year's are optimistic.
We mostly just hope that everyone's staying safe. I mean, a safer Toronto means that we can get back to business as usual.
Hoping it's the last year end with no champagne toast. Jessica Ng, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a live look at Toronto this evening. A travel advisory is now in effect for Saturday night into Sunday, with roads expected to be snowy and icy. And a pretty mild last day of 2021. Terry Loretto joins us now for a look at the forecast. Terry, will these temperatures stick around for New Year's Day?
Hi, Talia. Well, the temperatures will, but I don't think you're going to like what comes with them. It is going to be messy overnight tonight into New Year's Day. 2021 just giving us a final kick on the way out, I guess. And it's going to be windy, and then we're going to see this temperature drop on Sunday for southern Ontario and eastern Ontario. And for our friends in northern Ontario, sunshine back in the forecast, but extremely cold. Speaking of extreme cold, we do have some watches and warnings in place in parts of the province, and this purple that you see here, that is extreme cold warnings. That's for folks in Dryden, Kenora, Elliott Lake, Sioux Lookout, Superior West, that whole zone. You folks are going to see wind chills around -40 overnight tonight and tomorrow night. So do be careful if you're going outside. Quite the opposite down through the Windsor to Quebec City corridor. The weather advisory is for a messy mix. If people are planning on traveling at all on this New Year's, be careful. 5 to 15 centimeters of snow, some freezing drizzle, some freezing rain. So yeah, different all across the province. Speaking of winds, as that system starts to come through that we've got those warnings about, you'll see those winds gusting up to 50, 60 kilometers per hour. So that can be problematic for some. Temperatures all over the map, again, literally. Sudbury checking in at 0, Toronto at 6. We had 9 degrees in St. Catharines today, whereas -15 in Thunder Bay, -30 in Winnipeg. So quite a diverse, weather picture across the province. Part of that is because of that jet stream moving through Arctic air trapped up here in a system coming up from the southwest in the U.S. that is going to bring that wintry mix of weather for us here. This is the radar and satellite from the last couple of hours. You can see that's rain, blue is snow, and pink is that wintry mix. So I'll show you what that's going to look like going ahead over the next couple of days. Not great. So we did have a few flurries and drizzly bits moving through, from Windsor right up through Montreal. And for our friends in the north, though, that's going to be the different. We're seeing things starting to clear out. The clouds are actually starting to move out. So you'll get cold, clear weather with sunshine tomorrow as an area of high pressure moves in for you folks, pushing all of the clouds out to the eastern seaboard. Different story for our friends in Toronto, Windsor, London, Hamilton. This system brushes through overnight tonight. That's rain, and then tomorrow more rain in the forecast, drizzle and snow as that system really starts to push through tomorrow evening, and that's going to make those wintry conditions. Overnight tonight, 2 in Toronto. Let's take a quick look around the province. 2 overnight in London, 5 tomorrow, 5 to 10 centimeters. Let's take a look. Where are we going next? Windsor, 3 degrees and 5, and again that wintry mix. Ottawa, not as bad, but definitely getting some weather in there for the new year. For our friends in Thunder Bay, -25. And finally, with Sioux Lookout, -31 and frostbite warnings. I'll leave you with this lovely weather picture on the road to hopefully a better year.
Thanks for that, Terry. Wildfires in northern Colorado have destroyed up to 1,000 homes and injured at least 7 people. But so far, no reports of fatalities. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of residents are out of their homes after evacuation orders were issued for 2 communities near Boulder. Here's the state's governor.
There's temporary emergency shelters, and those will, of course, serve people as long as needed.
Multiple grass fires caused by hurricane-force winds spread quickly and ripped through 2 towns yesterday, prompting evacuation orders for about 34,000 people. Winds have died down today, but authorities say it's too dangerous for residents to return in many areas. Officials suspect the flames were sparked by downed power lines, then spread quickly because of extremely dry conditions this fall and winter. A state of emergency has been declared. And sad news from the world of entertainment. Betty White has died at the age of 99, just weeks shy of her 100th birthday.
Hi, Sue Ann, how are you?
I didn't sleep a wink all night. I feel wonderful.
The award-winning comedic actor had a career that spanned 8 decades, starting in radio. She rose to TV fame in the 1970s on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, taking home 2 Emmys. She won another for her role on the top-rated sitcom Golden Girls in the 1980s and quickly became America's senior sweetheart. In the last few decades of her career, she took a new turn as a pop culture icon, including an Emmy win for hosting Saturday Night Live. Outside of work, White was a long-standing supporter of animal causes. Well, in the middle of winter, it might seem a bit odd if someone asks you, can you handle the heat? But it's possible they're talking about that bottle of hot sauce in the pantry. As Philip de Montagny finds out, more people cooking at home during the pandemic has resulted in a boom of hot sauce sales.
Shannon Armishaw and Kevin Rickey launched their hot sauce business in April. In merely 8 months, the Toronto startup sold over 5,000 bottles.
People are loving artisan hot sauces, and there is a thirst for it that we did not anticipate.
The pandemic boosted hot sauce sales as consumers sought to spice up those home-cooked meals.
People were trapped at home, and they were cooking for themselves, trying new things.
Montreal-based La Pimenterie is also seeing the demand heat up.
Notre chiffre d'affaires est sur la voie de doubler.
Founder Julien Fréchette says his revenues just about doubled in the last year. Even globally, hot sauce sales soared in 2020 to more than $5.5 billion.
When we started in 2007, I think there were 2 other hot sauce companies, maybe 3 in Ottawa, and now you really can't keep track. They're popping up all the time. It's a nice time to be in the industry when it's growing.
Oh, look how much I got. I know. Ah!
Producers are also riding on a social media craze, with hot sauce challenges going viral, celebrities taking part. Even this Korean hip-hop song celebrating the spicy delicacy is taking the internet by storm.
Hot Ones has definitely helped kind of propel that, and also bringing different hot sauces and small batch hot sauces to light.
With all that momentum, Heiko Kreigsman launched an online marketplace for hot sauce earlier this year, not only selling his own products, but also those of 30 other Canadian producers.
And with that, we were able to actually help other small craft makers a little bit during this high time of the pandemic by helping to get their products out in the market as well.
His goal? To show foodies and hot sauce enthusiasts there's so much more out there than the old fiery favorites. Philippe de Montagny, CBC News, Toronto.
The Canadian Oxford Dictionary was first published in 1998, and the last time it was updated by Canadians was in 2004. The work of finding new words is now the job of Oxford English Dictionary staff in the UK and the US, leaving Canadians looking for the definitive source for our language. Eli Glasner reports.
What do you call this?
A notebook.
A duotang.
What? A what?
Canadian English is filled with words that are uniquely ours, like toque, or double-double, or even washroom.
Every place, every region, every country has its own words that we use that no one else uses.
For decades, the Canadian Oxford Dictionary was the definitive reference manual, thanks to founding editor Catherine Barber.
And if you buy a case of these, you have that uniquely Canadian word, a 2-4.
But the last time it was updated was 2004. With the Canadian staff laid off soon after, the work of finding new words is now the job of Oxford English Dictionary staff in the UK and US.
I definitely think it puts Canadian English at a disadvantage, or at the very least, it doesn't give it the same kind of visibility and representation as you see for other varieties.
But as a Canada Research Chair, Sally Tagliamonte has taken it upon herself to submit new words for consideration to Oxford.
My job is to get more Canadian words into that dictionary so that instead of having like just over 200 words that are designated as Canadian or even Ontario, that there will be more words.
That's why if you look up the phrase Bush Party in the online Oxford Dictionary, you'll see a Canadian citation. A pleasant surprise for the linguist who submitted it.
I can't believe it. It's the first time I've actually verified whether they used my words.
While some publishers and editors' organizations are discussing creating a new Canadian dictionary, Tagliamonte wants more Canadians to appreciate their distinct differences.
From the way we order coffee to where we play as children, these are words that color our existence and lead us to have connections between people.
Words hopefully captured in a new dictionary to call our own. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
And with midnight just hours away, we asked Toronto residents what their hopes and plans are for the new year.
I'm most looking forward to things going back to normal, to seeing my friends and family, to never saying the word COVID or coronavirus ever again in my entire life. I am so over it.
I think everyone is probably obviously hoping that this pandemic comes to a lull, at least. Maybe not having to wear a mask every day of my life.
The hockey season's still a thing, which I'm very thankful for. Go Leafs go, represent, and hopefully being able to see my family again soon.
I'm most looking forward to traveling with my boyfriend.
I'm hoping to travel too. Well, the clock has already struck 12 in other parts of the world. We'll leave you tonight with a look at some of those celebrations. Happy New Year, good night, and goodbye 2021.